Thank you very much for staying. This is the midweek edition of The Marketplace. My economist, Dr. Ishmael Yamson, is pushing for some expenditure cuts to ensure that the government ends the year on a good note. His call has been influenced by the state's inability to meet its revenue target for the first quarter by some 1.4 billion cedis. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has insisted the necessary measures have been instituted to ensure it meets the end-of-year revenue target of almost 45 billion cedis. But Dr. Yamson tells Joy Business the development calls for some drastic adjustments to avoid another high budget deficit by the end of the year.
If you know that you are not growing your revenue, cut your cost. You don't say that revenue, we meet the revenue target, but we reduce our expenditure by a certain percentage. Your expenditure reduction must match your revenue reduction. That way, you are not creating more problem. But even if your expenditure is reducing, but it is not reducing at the same pace at which you are losing revenue, then the problem is still there. You get me? So we need a very robust fiscal management. And I have just said that we must behave ruthlessly with expenditure, because it is easy to spend money. Once you put it in the budget, somebody thinks that it is there to be spent. It is very easy to spend money once it appears in the budget. But you don't have control over the revenue that you collect. If businesses don't perform, they won't pay taxes. If people don't import, they won't pay taxes at the port. So you don't have that absolute control. What you have control over is your expenditure.
Looking at the rigidity of the budget itself, does it make room for these extra cuts where all these things are so rigid that there's little you can even do when the revenue is not coming? That's where we are even forced to borrow and pay salaries of public sector workers.
I know there are two issues here. I know the government has already put on the table that all these earmarked funds, they are going to take a critical look. And I support the idea. You can't tie the hands of government. Let them decide their policy framework, and let them decide how they will execute that policy. I know there are things that we need to ensure, things that we have to do, but don't prescribe it as we have done. And people still keep telling, oh, let's set up a fund for this, and let's set up a fund for that. When every time we have a problem, we go and set up a fund. I don't think that's the way to manage an economy. I believe that, yes, and that's why I've said, the revenues are not coming in. Today, you have rigidities because of the earmarked funds. So where is the priority? Would you then prioritize loosening up the rigidities now and set yourself a framework and say in 3 months' time, I'm going to go to Parliament and make sure that these rigidities are removed, right? Let us understand, why is it that the revenue is not flowing in? Where are the issues? And let us then focus on the issues. But we cannot just talk about losing revenue, missing revenue target, as if it is some event. It has serious implications. And my third point is that if you are then aware that your revenue targets are being missed, what do you do about your expenditure? Then my point is, then be ruthless about your expenditure reduction as well.
Meanwhile, government is looking at spending almost 60 billion cedis in the 2017 budget. This should mean that government could end the year spending about 15 billion cedis, which is more than revenue mobilized. Away from that, cocoa farmers would not have enjoyed any increase in the price of any 64 kilo bag of cocoa produced for the next crop season. Cocoa Board Chief Executive Joseph Boaheng Edu disclosed this at a media interaction in Accra. He added farmers would not enjoy any bonus, but could this development affect the country's quest to produce nothing less than 850,000 tons of cocoa beans this year? George Viafi tells us more.
According to the chief executive, the development has been influenced by the significant reduction in the price of cocoa beans on the international market. The bean over the year has reduced from about $3,000 to about $1,900 a ton. The development has resulted in the country losing almost $1 billion in revenue during this period. farmers currently enjoy 7,600 Ghana cedis for a ton of cocoa beans and 475 Ghana cedis for every kilo bag of cocoa beans sold, after it was increased by 11% for last season. But the chief executive of Cocoa Board, Joseph Boahin Edu, says the farmers are still assured of their minimum guaranteed price.
One of our laws, patent laws, if I could put it that way, that farmers will suffer as a result of not increasing the price now, or as a result of loss of bonus, is going to be compensated by the increase in productivity per hectare. That's what we are aiming at. We only have to show that the farmer doesn't suffer more agony.
He also adds they are carrying out the necessary engagements to ensure that this will not affect production target for the next crop season.
The farmers, their reps, the district chief farmers, the regional chief farmers, they even brought this whole idea, and they've already started educating their members. And we become to the various television and media houses to explain.
The Cocoa Board boss also at the meeting announced the suspension of the Cocoa Road project because of the abuse of the whole initiative. On current challenges facing CPC, the chief executive said they are looking at supplying beans to the company whilst it considers current proposals to delist from the Ghana Stock Exchange. Mr. Boahin Edu also indicated they are actively exploring the Asian market to help improve consumption for the bean. He also talks about a campaign that will be launched soon to promote local consumption of cocoa.
The Minister of Agriculture, Dr. Efia Koto, is hinting of a special fund to make agriculture a leading contributor to GDP by the year 2020. Launching the 10th anniversary of the West Africa Center for Crop Investment, Dr. Efia Koto stated that the government was also has committed $1 million for the establishment of a specialized agric university in the country.
Only 11% of maize farmers use improved seed. The 89% or so use traditional seed, which they've used over and over and over again. In spite of that, this country is self-sufficient in maize. And the wonderful thing about these statistics is one thing. The traditional seed gives you something like less than half a ton per hectare. The open pollinated can give you up to 3 tons per hectare. The hybrid, as we know it, can give you 6-7 tons per hectare. But what he is telling us, they can do 9 to 10 tons per hectare. We have started with this major season. Now, the spearhead of that is what we are calling the planting for food and jobs, by choosing something like 200,000 farmers across the country, all the 216 districts, and focusing to make sure that they have the seed, the improved seed for 5 main cereals: rice, maize, sorghum, soya, and some tomatoes and other vegetables. That's all we are trying to do, just like a pilot scheme that we are starting this year.
Crossing over to the Ashanti regional capital, the Chamber of Commerce and Industries is encouraging local companies to engage in partnerships to enhance government's industrialization drive. Government has declared its intention to use the private sector to spearhead its one district, one factory policy. President of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Nana Appiah Dankawoso, was speaking at a breakfast meeting to discuss prospects of the initiative in Kumasi. Prince Appiah reports.
The event was hosted by the Kumasi Chamber of Commerce and Industry. The theme was positioning Ashanti region to take advantage of the one district, one factory policy by government. Members seek to collaborate with the state to implement the initiative to address unemployment. President of the National Chamber, Nana Dr. Appiah Dankawoso I, addressed the gathering.
Ashanti region is well endowed with a lot of natural resources. And you can name them. You can talk about oil palm. The land is good, and so we can grow a lot of oil palm. Cocoa, we can talk about wood. In here, you try to come with Ashanti We can grow mangoes here. We can grow tomatoes very well, just around Akumadan. Plantain, cassava. We have a lot of vast area of land which has been used to cultivate oranges. Teak, go to Ofensu area. How do we take advantage of this? Let's go to Tonso, Bunyere, Ehra. The people there, God has given us some level of creativity. And it is a comparative advantage. How do we harness and take advantage of some of these things?
He believes it is critical to form strong alliances to explore opportunities presented by the setting up of factories.
90,000. Usika 30,000. One who said, Doctor, Tiwe, also 30,000. Also, Jimmy come home because this can 30,000. One who said, also 30,000. Obia to her, and what can is a good book. Obia only okonimu. I didn't think that Doctor Father Diano coming near the on their father cat near Hono. Near 90,000 only young check. This is what I'm talking about. Don't rest on your OS. Let's move forward. All this that we are talking about is about creativity and innovation.
Kumasi Chamber President Yawache Yadom emphasized the need to tap into abundant natural resources in the Shanti region.
One district, one factory policy to be presented by Mr. Reverend Thomas Gusibuafo, lecturer, Kumasi Technical University. It is our expectation that after this meeting, the business community in the Ashanti region will understand and take advantage of this policy to transform Ashanti region into an industrial hub. To further engage the private sector in the Ashanti region to discuss issues of private sector development.
Prince Apia reporting.
And back in Accra, several SMEs are taking part in a workshop aimed at building their capacity to successfully operate their businesses. The workshop is organized by non-profit organization Invest in Africa in partnership with accounting firm Ernst & Young and Joy Business. Now, Daryl Kwao now joins us live from the Alisa Hotel, where the event is currently taking place, with some more updates. Good afternoon, Daryl, and what can you report?
Hi, Emmanuel. Welcome everyone to the Coconut Grove Regency Hotel. We just finished with the first session of this training workshop on establishing the right business model for profitability. I'm joined by an official of EY, Daniel Abebio, who has been the facilitator for this training workshop. I guess most SMEs will wonder what's the stress? Why should we have a good business model to run our businesses?
All right, thank you. So establishing the right business model for profitability is a theme, and the reason for which Invest in Africa and EY chose this theme because our engagement with a lot of the SMEs in Ghana pointed to the fact that a lot of them do not have the structures to enable profitability. And I'm speaking based on an experience with a particular businessman I engaged a couple of weeks back, who is in the renewables energy sector. So he imports solar panel into the country, install them, and then sell out. Now, when I engaged and found out what his margin was, he mentioned that he's making a margin of 20%. Then I asked, is it gross or net margins? Then he mentioned net margins. Probing further, I realized that there are a lot of the elements of cost that have not been factored in this whole model. Typically, he had not factored in the fact that he's using his own apartment or building for the business, and so because it's his, to put it in the local, I say, So he has not factored that cost in the model. So we thought it's important to drum this home so that businesses are aware of all the cost element that goes into the model, so that even when they are declaring profit, then you are clear that you are declaring the right profit and making the right tax.
Tell me what risk most SMEs face if they don't establish the rights. Now, emphasis on the right business model for their businesses.
Okay, so two things. One, you are in a very competitive environment where access to finance is very key. And so if you don't put in the right model where you have right books of account in place to bringing in the right cost and make sure that you're accounting for everything, essentially what you're going to do is you'll be paying more tax than necessary, because once you don't bring in all the costs, you'll be overstating your profit. And GRA is coming in to tax you based on the profit you are making. So eventually you are paying more tax than you should pay if you had brought in all the model and components of the cost.
All right. Thank you very much, Daniel Ababio. As I told you, the second session is just about starting. If you'll indulge me for the next 30 seconds, I want to speak with Gideon Padikonote. He's an SME owner, Good Masters. He's come for this training session. Just briefly, do you have a business plan?
Yes, sir. We have a business plan.
And how has that helped your SME?
That's helped us a lot, especially if you really want to survive in a competitive global market. If you are not looking at just Ghana alone, but you are looking at Africa, I believe if you have a very good business plan, you attract good investors to invest into your company.
All right. Thanks very much. That was Gideon Padikonote. This is the latest from the Coconut Grove Regency Hotel. Back to you, Mano.
Thank you very much, Darryl Kwao reporting from the Coconut Grove Hotel, where a capacity building workshop is being organized for SMEs in the country. Let's now take our investment tip for the day.
Investment Tip is brought to you by Daffin Finance. Deposit, investment, borrowing advisory.
Speak to an investment advisor for more investment options. You can start with an investment product familiar to you and plan to diversify your investment portfolio.
Investment Tip was brought to you by Daffin Finance. Deposit, investment.
Now, in 2009, chemical engineer Yao Edujemfi Poku decided to explore the market for natural cosmetic products. Having lived in the northern part of the country for a while, he had seen tons of shea butter exported from Ghana to other countries for use by global cosmetic companies. Then he thought, why can't we move beyond just exporting? That birthed the Penny brand, which features on this week's episode of the Joy Business Van as you gear up for the authentically Ghanaian fair later this month.
As you can see, he's operating the machines. The things are cooking in here, so we would not ideally be opening it. So once it's cooked properly, and all the things are, I think, mixed properly, we'll homogenize it.
Sophisticated mixing machines would work mixing ingredients for various cosmetic products. This is a portion of Yao Edujemfi Poku's home converted into a production center. He's not around today, but his co-founder, Software EC, is.
We have them down there. It's cooking at very high heat, as I said. So once it cooks at this very high heat, we have to let it cool down.
Software EC, a lawyer, is a sister of Yao. At the time she came up with the idea of starting a cosmetic line, she didn't know what to expect.
He was working in the northern region, and the business that they were doing at that time had to do with shea butter. So he realized most of the shea butter is being taken out unprocessed. And as a chemical engineer, you should be able to add value to it. You should know the process equipment to use. So he came back home saying he wanted to grow steady cosmetics. In fact, I was shocked when I heard it. And I said, okay, fair enough. So he told my mom and my dad, and they said, okay, they were going to sponsor him to go learn it. And in fact, at that time, he was supposed to go do his master's. So once he went to the school, I think Clarkson University, and he gave the teacher some chocolate. He said, do you produce this in Ghana? He said, yes. They never knew we had finished chocolates in Ghana. So he said he was going to throw him a challenge to come back and do something with our batters. And that's when he came back and said he wanted to do cosmetics, and we find ourselves here today.
The full story of the Joy Business Fund live on Business Live later tonight. It's still on the marketplace. It's now time to cross over to Parliament, where the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, has been scheduled to respond to some questions or some concerns by the minority with regards to the $2.25 billion bond. Stay tuned.
The Speaker has been submitted to it for the establishment of the Housing Development Board to make it a priority, just like Cocoa. The Speaker, that's just the question. Thank you for the opportunity.
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker,
Order.
I can sense some clarity this time in the question. And I can assure him, I can assure
honorable members, Nikolu.
I can assure my good friend, the Honorable Ahmed, that I'll take any opportunity to do that, because it's important that we get these balls up and running. So there's no question that there will be any delay. I guess it's the heavy load of work which is causing it. I'm sure it will be okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for attending to the House and answering our questions. You are discharged. Thank you. Correspondence from the President. Order. 5th June 2017. Mr. Speaker, absence from Ghana. In accordance with Article 59, what is the cause of this? Honorable members of the Constitution, I wish to inform you that I shall be traveling outside the country from 5 to 12 to 17 June 2017 for official duties in connection with my role as the co-chair of the panel of advocates of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals 14, as well as the G20 Africa Partnership Conference. In the light of the above, I will be visiting the underlisted countries: Brussels, Belgium, New York, USA, Berlin, Germany, London, UK. During my honorable members' order, during my absence from Ghana, the Vice President honorable members, are we interested in the fact of the matter? During my absence from Ghana, the Vice President, Alhaji Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, shall, in accordance with Article 60 Sub 8 of the Constitution Act in my stead. Please accept, Mr. Speaker, the assurances of my highest esteem and consideration. Signed, the President. Whilst this was traveling from my office, I found it necessary to vary the order so that business will continue. Then I'll read this accordingly. You may table it. When it is duly tabled, honorable members know the proper parliamentary procedure to access the document by itself and not be shouting dates. Item 4, statements. The Honorable Minister for Finance. This is done in response to the half-hour move by the Honorable Minority on Wednesday, 31st May 2017.